All right, let's talk about something real. We're going to unpack a super powerful strategy for integrity, and it's called the Joseph Principle. Think of it as a game plan for when temptation hits and it feels like there's just nowhere to run. Let's get right into it. I mean, have you ever felt like that? Like you're just losing the battle against temptation? If you have, you are definitely not alone. It's like we're constantly surrounded by this intense pressure, right? From social media, the stuff we watch, even from our friends. It can honestly feel like this relentless fight just to hold on to what you believe in. But what if I told you that one of the absolute best strategies for dealing with all these modern challenges actually comes from a really ancient story? Yeah, it's a timeless principle, and it lays out a super clear path to actually winning this fight. So to get a grip on this, we're going to look at a case study. It's about a young guy who is in a situation that's been called the pressure cooker, and that's a perfect name for it. His name is Joseph, and you might find that his circumstances, well, they sound surprisingly familiar. Okay, so just try to picture this. Joseph, he's a young guy. He's totally alone in a foreign country, far from his home, far from his family. He's got literally zero support system. And on top of all that, every single day, he's facing this intense temptation from a really powerful woman. I mean, he had every excuse in the book to just give in, but he didn't. So the big question is, how? How did he do it? Well, the secret to Joseph's success, it wasn't just about what he did, it was all about his mindset. It started with this really powerful internal defense that he had built up way before the crisis ever hit. Just look at his immediate reaction right here. He says, "How then can I do this great wickedness and sin against God?" Whoa. His very first thought isn't, "Oh no, I might get caught," or "What's my boss gonna think?" Nope, it's all about his relationship with God. And that right there, that's the foundation of all his strength. This is what we call the fear of God. And look, it's not about being terrified of God in a scary way. It's about having this deep respect and understanding that giving in to this temptation, it's not just breaking some rule on a list. It's, in his words, a great wickedness against God himself. You see how that perspective totally changes the game? The fight for purity stops being about just following rules and becomes an act of worship. Okay, but having a strong internal defense, that's only half the battle. Joseph paired that mindset with a really decisive external action. We're calling it the power of flight. And here's the key takeaway. Joseph did not stick around. He didn't debate. He didn't linger. He didn't try to reason with the temptation or talk his way out of it. He just got it. He understood that some battles, you don't win them by standing your ground and fighting. You win them by running away. And this really breaks it down perfectly. You've got two paths. On one side, you try to reason with temptation. And what happens? You linger, you debate, you compromise, and it pretty much always ends in failure. But on the other side, you've got the Joseph principle, flee. That means leaving, deciding, and committing. And that is the path to victory. And you know, this isn't just some good idea from an old story. It's a direct command we see in Scripture. The instruction is crystal clear. Don't negotiate with sexual immorality. Don't try to manage it. Flee from it. The strategy is escape. Period. So what does this actually look like for us today? Well, it's super practical. Fleeing pornography, that means slamming the laptop shut, closing the browser, maybe installing some accountability software. Fleeing fornication, it means you physically get up and leave a situation that's going in the wrong direction. You set clear boundaries before you're ever in that spot. And fleeing lust, that means taking control of your eye gate, being really intentional about what you allow yourself to look at. Okay, but let's be real for a second. Following this principle, it is not always easy. In fact, sometimes doing the right thing comes with a very real and often immediate price tag. I mean, just think about Joseph's story. He does everything right. He flees, he keeps his integrity, he honors God, and what's his reward? He gets falsely accused and thrown into a prison cell. It seems totally and completely unfair, right? His immediate reward for doing the right thing was punishment. And that leads to the huge question we all have to ask ourselves when the cost of doing the right thing feels way too high. So, was it worth it? Was it really worth it for Joseph? And the answer is yes, 1,000 times yes. Because see, the true reward wasn't that he got to avoid trouble here on earth. The real reward was experiencing God's presence right there in the middle of the trouble. Even in a dark prison cell, Joseph wasn't alone. And that changed everything. Look, choosing purity might come with a temporary cost. It might hurt for a little while, but that temporary pain is so much better than the long-term bondage and regret that comes from giving in. Joseph's time in prison, that was temporary. His integrity, that was permanent. And that integrity was the real reward. It's the very thing that eventually paved his way from a prison cell all the way to a palace. But the Joseph principle isn't just about running away from something bad. That's only half the equation. This strategy is totally incomplete if you miss the other part. You also have to be running toward something good. And this verse just nails it. It says to flee youthful passions and pursue righteousness, faith, love, and peace. See, you flee the bad stuff, yes, but you don't just run into an empty space. You have to actively, intentionally pursue the good stuff. You've got to replace what you're running from with something way better. So purity becomes this positive quest. It's not just about what you're avoiding anymore. Instead of just trying not to mess up, you're actively chasing after things like righteousness and love. Instead of just dodging bad situations, you're pursuing peace and surrounding yourself with friends who are running in the same direction you are. So, here's the challenge for all of us. Don't just listen to this and think, that's interesting. Live it. Let's adopt this two-part strategy, fleeing and pursuing. And let's start today. And it all starts right where it started for Joseph, with that internal defense. The battle is truly won or lost in your heart. Guarding your heart, being so careful about what you let in, that is the number one most important thing you can do, because literally everything else in your life flows from there. And hey, you do not have to do this alone. In fact, you shouldn't. A huge practical next step is to find someone you really trust, an accountability partner, and make a commitment together. Decide right now that you're going to guard your hearts and your eyes, and you're going to help each other stay on the right path. So we're going to end with this question. Fleeing temptation is absolutely essential. We have to do it. But a life of real purpose that's defined by what you run toward. So take a look at your own life, your goals, your values, and ask yourself, what are you going to start running toward starting today?